Broncos Country, it's that time again. The moment to take a hard look at our Denver Broncos and the tough decisions that could shape their future. We're not talking about who they might bring in, no, this is about the players already wearing orange and blue who could be on the move before the trade deadline. Before we dive into it, Broncos fans, name the one player you'd trade if you had the power. The deadline is November 5th, Week 9 of the 2025 NFL season. Once that window closes, the door to reshape this roster slams shut. And remember, before listening to the latest news, subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and don't forget to ring the bell icon. Let's move on to the new news. Our first trade candidate, the one that feels impossible to ignore, John Franklin Myers. After a strong 2024, expectations were high. But in 2025? The spark is gone. He's faded into the background, producing just a single tackle so far. That's it. If this continues, his trade value will vanish completely. For Denver, the question is simple: hold on and hope, or move on while they still can. For John Franklin Myers, this season isn't just about chasing a payday, it's about survival. No team in the NFL is going to trade for a player who isn't producing, and right now, his numbers are brutal. 1 tackle. 0 tackles for loss. 0 sacks. A PFF grade of just 54.8 through 2 games. That's not what the Broncos signed up for. Last year, Franklin Myers was a force, collapsing pockets, stuffing the run, and making life miserable for quarterbacks. This year? Too many snaps where he looks disengaged, too many plays where the effort just isn't there. And in this league, reputation doesn't keep you employed. Production does. Reports say he still wants a massive contract, something in the range of $20 million per year. But let's be honest, with 1 tackle in 2 games, he's not even playing like a $5 million guy. The Broncos need impact on the field, not empty demands. So what's the move? Denver has to weigh the reality: keep waiting for a turnaround, or move on and open the door for younger talent like rookie Savion Jones, who's hungry to prove himself. That might be the smarter play, because right now, Franklin Myers feels less like a cornerstone, and more like a wasted roster spot. The Carolina Panthers may have cap space and defensive needs, but from Denver's perspective, the answer is clear: if that 5th-round pick is on the table for John Franklin Myers, you take it. No hesitation. It's a smart move for a team trying to build something sustainable. Now let's shift to another name, one Broncos fans might not want to hear: Jaleel McLaughlin. He's been a favorite in Denver, and Sean Payton has shown belief in him. But the truth is hard to ignore. McLaughlin hasn't had a single carry this season. In preseason action, he was buried on the depth chart, and Tyler Batty flat out earned the RB3 role with stronger performances. Look at the backfield: J.K. Dobbins is firmly the number 1, with R.J. Harvey slotting into specific packages as the power option. Behind them, Batty has proven his value as the RB3. That leaves McLaughlin as an emergency piece, a role the Broncos could easily fill another way. On top of that, Denver has Deuce Vaughn waiting on the practice squad. He's undersized, yes, but his style mirrors Darren Sproles, the kind of versatile, dynamic weapon Sean Payton has always loved. With that safety net in place, moving McLaughlin might not just make sense, it might be necessary. When it comes to depth running backs, it often comes down to fit: who can actually carve out a role, and who's simply taking up a roster spot. The reality is, plenty of teams around the league are desperate for running back help. Take the Chicago Bears as an example. Beyond DeAndre Swift, their backfield is thin. For them, Jaleel McLaughlin could be an intriguing addition, a change of pace runner with speed and upside. For Denver, the return wouldn't be flashy. Maybe a 7th-round pick in 2026. That's the realistic market for a 4th-string back who hasn't seen the field. Still, from the Broncos' perspective, that's better than keeping a player stuck at the bottom of the depth chart. It frees a roster spot, brings in a future draft chip, and gives McLaughlin a chance to contribute somewhere else. Sometimes the best move isn't about what you're gaining right now, it's about positioning yourself for what comes next. And with 2 trade candidates down, the third name might just surprise you. Now for the final name on this list, and Broncos Country, this one might sting, Riley Moss. Before you judge too quickly, hear me out. Moss has shown real growth this season. Yes, he got beat on a couple of tough plays against the Colts, but overall, his numbers tell the story of a cornerback who belongs on the field. He's proven he can play outside and compete at this level. So why is he even on this list? Depth, and the future of the position. Denver drafted Jaquan McMillian-Barron, who has the skill set to thrive on the outside. Add in Chris Abrams-Draine, who turned heads in the preseason with lockdown coverage, and suddenly the Broncos have multiple young corners pushing for snaps. That's where the difficult decision comes in. If Moss continues to play well, his value could rise, making him one of the few defensive players Denver could realistically move for meaningful draft capital. Trading him wouldn't be about giving up on talent, but about leveraging depth to build for tomorrow. It's the type of move contenders avoid, but rebuilding teams consider. The Broncos are at that crossroads. The Broncos' depth at cornerback is one of their quiet strengths. With players like Jaquan McMillian-Barron and Chris Abrams-Draine waiting in the wings, Denver could afford to move one piece without losing much on the field. And that's what makes Riley Moss such an intriguing trade chip. Statistically, Moss has been solid. 12 tackles, 3 pass breakups, and while he hasn't grabbed an interception yet, his coverage numbers tell the story, a 63.4 coverage grade and an opposing quarterback rating of 75.4 when targeted. That's strong. Quarterbacks simply aren't finding much success when throwing his way. And that's the point. To be a trade candidate in the NFL, you have to be good. Teams don't trade for players who can't play, they cut them. Moss has shown he belongs, and that's exactly why his name surfaces in trade talks. Not long ago, an analyst suggested Moss would make sense for a team like the Dallas Cowboys. Why? Because Denver has one of the most crowded cornerback rooms in the league. With Barron developing, McMillian thriving in the nickel, and Abrams-Draine showing real promise, the Broncos could move Moss, pick up valuable draft capital, and still not miss a beat on defense. Sometimes, having too much talent at one spot forces tough choices. For Denver, Riley Moss might represent exactly that. So what would a Riley Moss trade actually look like? The Cowboys don't have a third-rounder in 2026, but they do hold a fourth and a sixth. Packaging those 2 picks together could be enough to match Moss's value, a fair return for a player drafted in the 3rd round just a year ago. For Denver, that kind of deal would open the door for Jaquan McMillian, Jaquavion Barron, and Chris Abrams-Draine to rotate and prove themselves. The Broncos would still be loaded with young cornerback talent while adding extra draft capital to help rebuild the roster. And that's the heart of this discussion, tough choices. John Franklin Myers, Jaleel McLaughlin, and Riley Moss, 3 players who could be moved, not because they lack ability, but because the Broncos must think about the future. With the trade deadline approaching, every decision counts. Broncos Country, this is the moment where emotion meets reality. Do you keep familiar faces and hope for a turnaround, or do you trade now, stockpile picks, and build towards something greater? The answers could define the future of this team.